You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show, the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. We do not have any new callers today, but we got Jesse. What's going on, Jesse?
Hello, Ryan. I know that there's a lot of talk about Matthew Golden not being fast, and watching some of the clips, I understand where it's like, okay, he's fast, but he's not 429 fast.
Yeah.
I heard I think it was like the old PFF guys. I can't remember their names, but they're no longer PFF.
Yeah.
They do like all the talk show and stuff. But they mentioned something like that. Houston, when they tracked their on-the-field speed, he was something like in the 97th and 98th percentile, where at Texas he was in the 80th percentile. Do you think it might just be he has the speed, and then in some ways in Texas, whether it's because of the arm of the quarterback or just he learned how to pace his routes differently, and the speed didn't maybe show up as much? I'm just wondering, why would you think that there's a discrepancy between Houston, where at least on the field tracking has him in nearly the top percentage marker, and in Texas, where of course he was a lot better, but he, in terms of speed, he significantly dropped off into like the 80th percentile, which is still good, but I mean, it's not 429 good. Let's just say. Just wanted to get your thoughts. Like, thanks for all you do. Thanks.
It is very weird. I mean, he did run a 4.29, right? So, I mean, there's a bunch of different thoughts flying around in my head. So, I mean, one could be, man, was there some kind of an injury that caused his speed to, maybe take a hit? Something along those lines. But he showed up at the combine and, again, fastest 40, third fastest miles per hour, I think. I don't think he did a lot of the on-field stuff, so I can't really see that, but it's in there, right? And then if you couple that with a comment he did make, it was something along the lines of, like you said, he doesn't feel the need to just run as blazing fast as he needs to on every single route. It's sort of a growth factor for him where he, depending on what route you're running, if I'm running a curl route, and I'm running as fast as I possibly can, that's probably going to make it harder for me to, break down and work back to the ball, because I've just got too much. So he learned to kind of tempo these things a little bit. My issue is I never saw it on go routes, post routes, anything where you want the speed, where you want to see him run past a guy. I didn't see it then either. So I don't know. And I know there was... I'm going to blank on his name now. I referenced it before. A wide receiver, former wide receiver great who has his own YouTube channel now, talked about Golden, said he was his favorite receiver, and did say you can, to some degree, teach speed. I know they say it's something you can't teach. Well, to a degree, you can. You can teach it up to their ability, teaching them to not use wasted movements and those kinds of things. It's a very weird thing, especially if you're saying he had it at Houston. I mean, if I could just see it one time, if anybody out there can show me one route, and I know there's some where it's like, oh, look, he was behind him and then it was an underthrown ball. Yeah, but I mean, catching a guy flat-footed in zone is different than man-to-man coverage. I want to see man-to-man coverage where they're just running shoulder to shoulder and he is passing him. He's running beyond him. And, I don't know, maybe he tempoed it down because his quarterback doesn't have enough arm to get it there. At Houston they did. I've seen a lot of people pull out clips saying, look at how fast he looks when he's got a quarterback that he doesn't have to slow down for. I mean, it's a very weird thing. He is fast. You don't really see it on the field. I don't know. I don't know exactly how that all works. I do know that some guys are just fast and you don't see it. I mean, we had a bunch of guys in Green Bay that were supposedly fast and they just didn't really run past people. And then you get Christian Watson who just flies past people. Watson has speed, but so do a lot of guys that can't seem to get past people. So I don't really know. I guess I would just say I have low expectations about him and his speed, and I think his real assets come from his route running, his hands, and he's not slow, right? I'm not saying he's slow. I'm just saying I don't think you're going to have elite speed with him where he's flying past people. I think he has adequate speed. I mean, to me, he looks like a guy that runs 4.4 flat, which is a big difference. It's not like, oh, he's got 4.35, not 4.29. I'm saying it's like, Jaden Reed or even, Romeo, when Romeo would kind of occasionally get past guys and you're like, he's got some sneaky speed, actually. Surprisingly, it's there, But with those low expectations also comes the possibility that either he was tamping it down or he was dealing with some kind of an injury at the time or it's something that's coachable or whatever. That he has rare speed in certain circumstances, and it's just a question of are the Packers going to allow him to unleash that or facilitate in unleashing that? I really don't know, and I guess that would be something that would be interesting to maybe ask the Packers a little bit. Ask Gutekunst just directly, like, what kind of data do you have on his speed? Because a lot of people that are watching him, they don't see 4.29 on the field. Do you know why? Or I don't know. I really don't. But I'm trying to find what it is you're referencing. I'm not seeing it off the top of my head here. So if you see it, send it to me and I'll continue poking around. But it's a mystery to me. And again, for me, I have just gotten to the point where I've decided he is not a burner. 4.29 is kind of fake. He's got good enough speed to do whatever, but I don't believe it until I actually see it on a football field. It's kind of where I'm sitting right now, which again, I'm okay with, assuming the Packers didn't just blindly say, oh yeah, no, we're going to draft him because of the 4.29 or whatever, in which case we might be in a lot of trouble.
Yo, Ryan, it's your uncle.
Yo.
Hey, I haven't really had time to go over the day 3 Packers stuff, the picks, really, to dig into them. Today's Tuesday. I just haven't got that far, but I just wanted to say I like day 2. Know about that big old lineman. That guy came out of nowhere. I don't know if he was in anybody's top 100 or anything like that. Did I call already? Hell, I don't remember. Anyways, I don't know. Was he on anybody's radar anywhere? Did he show?
I'm trying to remember when I did the pod, because one of the things I did, I think for Gold, or no, it was him. I think that was part of the podcast I did with him, was to look at people who had him ranked higher. I'm pretty sure. If you didn't listen to that podcast, go listen to that podcast. I think that's what I did. Some people did. I think for the most part it was seen as a reach, but there were a handful of people that had him higher. Not a ton. And it's the same for Savion Williams. I did his podcast today. I mean, it was published today. And one of the things I tried to do was go and find out who had him ranked higher and what they had to say. There were a couple, but I mean, the vast majority of the big boards I looked at, they didn't have him in the top 100. I think what did we take him at, 87 or something? A couple, I think one had him at like 60 or whatever, but that was, I think that was, what's his name over at Walter Football? Not Walter, but the other guy. But then his updated board, when you even click on that link, it takes you to his updated board, and he was in like the 80s or something again. So there were like 2 that had him like in the 70s. It was really not any different than where we took him. So I was like, I'll leave that out of the segment. So yeah, day 2, again, Packer fans not super happy with. part of that has to do with not going positionally where we want, and part of it is the value. Although I think Savion Williams was more or less around where people thought. I mean, he was a third-round pick, but the value certainly wasn't great, and not a lot of people had him very high, either one of them.
Up on, I mean, he was invited to the combine, right, and stuff like that. I guess I just never heard of the guy, but either way, I like it. Like I said before, when I called in about Matthew Golden, I wasn't really high on him, but I trust Goody. But the more I read about him, and the more I hear about him, and the more I think about it, I'm getting pretty jacked about it. But I love a Savion Williams.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wanted, a big beast, loose the burden type of guy or whatever. And he, I know he's not obviously elite or whatever, or he went sooner, but I'm excited about him. But I think the 2 receiver draft sends a message that we need improvement. It shows the guys on the roster that, hey, you need to do better, you guys, all this hype they had a couple years ago, I was on that bandwagon, but nobody improved since then, since the 2023 season.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I mean, it's not even a matter of in hindsight you were wrong. No, I think in hindsight you were right to say that we need to be patient and see what happens. But I also think at this point, some people are still on the train of especially Wicks. We got to give Wicks time. Wicks needs time. And then I think Watson is a little bit different because of the injury stuff. So it's, there's obviously 2 camps on whether or not he's good, and then there's also 2 camps on whether or not we can trust he'll ever be healthy. So it's kind of you end up with 4 little quadrants of fans, I guess. But no, I think at this point, even if some of the guys we already had do become quite good, you recognize that the odds are relatively low, and you probably should make plans for the future that don't include them, especially since you do have to make decisions on these guys relatively soon, and you don't want to be caught with your pants down where, oops, they didn't turn out, and now we have to keep them because there's nobody else on our roster.
Anyways, yeah, I think this sends a message. Hey, guys, you're not safe here. Improve your play, or you're not gonna be here. They bring in Hardman. They bring in 2 more receivers in the draft. It's a lot of competition. We don't know who's going to be on the roster this fall. It's going to be pretty cool. Some people are going to have to work pretty hard, and it's all going to be good. All good. So, anyways, I'm pretty jacked. Rico out. Y'all have a good day. Bye.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it really just comes down to, as I've said, it's a lot less about position and a lot more about how many of these guys are going to pan out, which ones are they, and to what degree, right? How many low-end contributors are there? How many decent contributors are there? How many good contributors are there? And are there any blue chip top 10 type prospects in this draft class? Because, that's ultimately what matters. I mean, nobody would have voted last year for the one blue chipper to be a linebacker in Edgerrin Cooper. But everybody is super jacked that we got Edgerrin Cooper. So the position isn't going to matter as much as please let some of these guys end up being good football players. If Matthew Golden is not great and, Savion Williams is not great and we're still kind of floundering with these sort of 2s and 3s at wide receiver, and maybe we move on from, Wicks and Dobbs and we keep Golden and Savion and hope that they can grow, and we're kind of in that same path, but, let's say our 2nd and 4th round picks, we get an elite left tackle and a really solid pass rusher. I think I'll be okay with that. Everyone's still going to throw a fit. Oh, first round. Bro, it really doesn't matter that much. What matters is the quality of the players you get. But you can't draft in the first round. We need a new GM. Well, we need high-quality players. I don't want a guy that finds good players in the first round and can't do anything else because that's less than what we just got this past year, right? So that's stupid. It's like all this, oh boy, oh yeah, they really hated Rodgers. Look, he never got a first round receiver. Rodgers had elite receivers from day one. He always had phenomenal receivers. And they drafted lots of receivers. Yeah, but not round one. Who cares? Who cares? It's irrelevant. They're so obsessed with these weird things. What kind of magic happens in round one that I'm not aware of? And it's so weird to complain that the Packers, not just Gutekunst, but Ted Thompson, could not draft in the first round, found absolute superstars in the second round, but we hate Rodgers for not wasting first-round picks on wide receivers that wouldn't be very good. What are you talking about? Also, not as big of a need when you have guys like, James Jones and Donald Driver and Jordy Nelson and Devontae Adams. Not as huge of a... Here's another question. From Brett Favre through Aaron Rodgers and then Jordan, who's the only quarterback that didn't have elite receivers for pretty much their entire career? Oh, it's Jordan. Who got a first-round receiver? Oh, it's Jordan. Go figure. Shut up, dude. What are you talking about? All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We got some beer, cheese, Benny.
Hey, Ryan, beer, cheese, Benny here.
Yo.
I'm calling in. I heard you thin on calls. Is what you said. You said keep them coming, so I guess I'm just going to keep them rolling.
I guess.
So, Savion Williams, right? I'm kind of tired of people saying he's like this gadget guy. Granted, yes, I do believe that he can do the gadget things, and that's fine. But I think he's so much more than that. I mean, I think it's such a discredit. It's such a disrespect to just say that he's a gadget guy, because I think he could play in the slot, and really, he's a guy, if you get the ball to him quick, he's going to do the rest of the work. He is quick, and, he's big, so, he can, make people miss tackles and stuff. So I really would like to shy away from that until we see how LaFleur actually uses him.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I don't. And again, like you say, it's not a very good pick if that's what they use him for, I think. Because it'd be a disservice to...
And the reason I keep bringing that up is because I can't imagine that's why they drafted him. And Gutekunst said it's not. But, to say that he's just a gadget guy, like a better Ty Montgomery, and then, there's a real low chance that he could be a receiver, but we're fine with him being a gadget. Why in the third round? 6th round, 7th round, okay. But you better be drafting a guy you think can be an actual receiver in the third round. It is my thought, unless they just believe that they can use a Cordero Patterson and have success with it, unlike anyone ever. Maybe, I don't know.
But his talents really are. But, yeah. And I need to do some more looking at Micah Robinson. I mean, I only saw what I saw from the draft and a little bit, a few other things I see. But I saw he posted something. I lost it because you know how you're on Twitter, all of a sudden, you'll scroll down and it refreshes and you lose something. Mm-hmm. I saw something he posted. It was work until you are known or something like that. I don't know what it was, but seems like an ass buster, man. Hopefully that is the case. It would be such a cool story if a 7th rounder like him as a corner comes in and ends up being one of the better corners in the league for us. But I think that the Williams pick too, I mean, I don't know, dude. It just seems I trust the Packers when it comes to O-line. I always have, really, because they pretty much always get it right. So I think the Williams pick right there at the end was cash money, bro. I mean, he's probably not going to play right away, but you can definitely help him get better, and he'll be a starter. All right, go Pago.
Yeah, I'm very, very hopeful. We have to kind of reorient a couple different things. Like I said, it's a very unusual draft. We'll see. I like a lot of the things, but look at our offensive line getting bigger. And again, Gutekunst gave a completely fair answer. We've always liked big. It's just a matter of you have to meet our thresholds or whatever. But that plus smaller corner, smaller pass rusher, and I love the speed bend guys and all that. But can they make it work? Plus, we have a new defensive coordinator and we have a new defensive line coach. So it's hard to go based off of precedent for anything with these guys. I mean, the only thing that's consistent is what? Matt LaFleur with a first-round receiver? No. I guess our offensive line coach with offensive linemen, which I don't know that we've really seen anybody get better. But, either Gutekunst drafts a good player or he doesn't, and that's about the extent of it. But, again, we'll see. We got 2 more guys to see if they can grow. I mean, I suppose Sean Ryan could be the exception to that, and Rasheed Walker. Those are 2 guys that have gotten better in year 1 to year 2. It's not completely fair to say there's been no growth. But, again, the type of offensive lineman is different. Maybe like a third-round receiver with Matt LaFleur, which I don't think is a super good track record. I mean, Romeo's a 4th, but, third round is tough, unless you consider Tucker a receiver. But even that, he's not a normal receiver. So, yeah, it's hard to pin anything down. I mean, the most Packers-y guy to me might be our 4th-round pass rusher, just a very standard across-the-board, typical defensive end. But, again, it's year 2 with this new guy and a new defensive line coach, so it's hard to have a lot of expectations. We got to see how it pans out, I guess.
Just picture this.
Okay.
You got 3 out to the right.
Yeah.
Receivers. Okay.
Yes.
In the slot, you got Tucker Kraft, standing up. On the outside, you got Musgrave, and then in the middle, you got Savion Williams. So you can throw a screen to either Tucker Kraft or Savion Williams. The other 2 could block for him, or you could fake the screen and just send Musgrave running on a deep post or on a 9 route and just throw it up. At first I wasn't sure about the Savion Williams thing. I like the pick, but the more I envision what it adds,
right?
Because I already know we have it.
And that was the experience that I had yesterday. I don't know if it was on this morning's podcast or last night's Packernet After Dark or what, but when it just clicked to me when you have the speed to stretch everybody back, but then also you have a guy. Again, I would love for him to be a normal wide receiver, but at least in the meantime, what he adds could be probably more close to the line of scrimmage type stuff. As far as your linebackers and safeties and how you play, are you going to rely on your corners to tackle Savion Williams? If not, what are you going to do with your safeties and your linebackers? Are you going to have them kind of stay back and hesitate? Because Josh Jacobs will thank you for that strategy. Are you going to move your safeties down into the box? Because, with the speed we have, that could be problematic for you. So you're exactly right. I mean, when we just look at it in terms of good, bad, are you going to be good or bad? It's also a question of all the different tools in the toolbox that stress a defense. No matter what you choose, you lose. That's the idea, and I think Savion really adds that dimension of making it really difficult. And that's why everybody gets annoyed with the jet sweeps and all that stuff, even though, again, we pretend they never work, and that's not true. They don't have as high of a hit rate as maybe he puts into it, but there's a reason for doing it. You got to keep them honest, and especially when you don't have Watson and everything else, you really have to, you're struggling to find different things that you can do to stress a defense to try to force them into doing things. we want you to kind of keep your, safeties down or whatever, so we're going to run this, and it's not super successful. But now you have a guy that is more successful, and it just becomes, I guess I just wouldn't be so quick as a lot of Packer fans are to jump in and go, oh no, this means more jet sweeps. Like, well, let's see how it goes. Let's wait.
Playbook, but like it just gives you so many tools with this roster because Tucker Kraft is a sneaky. He's the Savion Williams of the tight end room. So it just gives you so much flexibility to manufacture offense if for some reason there's injuries or whatever, right? If you just can't get it going, it makes it nice so you can actually like find a way to get a rhythm, or if you're just desperate to get a first down, you can just hand the ball to one of these guys and you go and get one. So I'm pretty excited. Go Pack Go.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of what we did. We lost the speed because Watson can't stay on the field, so they got Golden. Again, I'm skeptical of that, but he at least has enough speed to keep him honest, right? He's going to be the fastest guy on the field, I think, this year. But we have all the bases covered now, presumably, right? I mean, you lose Golden or whatever, and then crap, we're back to squeeze. Or two speed guys are out. But hopefully, Golden plays, Watson returns. It'll be, it's more of a next year kind of a deal than anything, but I envision a future that includes Christian Watson, and again, maybe that's unrealistic, but I would like it if Watson could stay as well as Golden, Savion, you may, obviously Jaden, you may, I just don't know. I'm still trying to figure out who our best X receiver is. It's got to be Romeo at this point, I would think. And I know I heard there were speculations that he was included in a trade package, which could lead you to believe that he's on the way out. But really, I mean, it could just be a simple matter of we have no intention of getting rid of him, unless, of course, we're bringing somebody in that could take his place and upgrade that position.
Hey, this is Carson Caldwell from Cleveland, Ohio. I haven't called in a while,
man?
But draft time, I'm kind of thinking about football a little bit more. And I was wondering I saw this chart. I think it was on Twitter. It might have been on Instagram or something, but it was talking about the breakout age of college prospects and how a younger breakout age actually correlates better to NFL success than a higher breakout age. So it had there was a green, yellow, and red. Green was 18 to 20 of their breakout age, and then the yellow was 20 to 21, and then red was 22 and after. And basically all the green players that broke out at 18, 19, 20 were having more success in the NFL. The yellow players were kind of, 50-50, and then the red players didn't have as much success in the NFL. So I haven't looked that much into it. I was wondering if you had heard anything about it, because I thought it was pretty interesting, because the chart that I saw was dead on of every single player that was in the red didn't pan out except for maybe one of them. Sure. And then all the players in the green ended up panning out, and then they showed this year's draft class in the first round, and Matthew Golden was at a 20.1, so he was kind of in that greenish yellow range. And so I don't know, I was just curious about if you've heard anything about it, what you've seen about it, and if you think that it actually does correlate, or if they were just nitpicking some random stats. But yeah, because I haven't looked very much into it, so I was wondering what you thought about it. But I'm happy with the draft that we have right now. I think Matthew Golden can come in day one and have an impact. I think Savion was a good pick in round 3. I'm happy with the O-line. I do wish we would have drafted a corner, but it is what it is. And so, that's all I got for you today. So go Pack Go.
So here's I think it's a good metric, and the reason is my understand, because it took me a while. Mr. Numberman was hammering me on this. This was, I don't know, last year, 2 years ago, whatever it was. But the idea that drafting older players is not great. And I really was kind of having a hard time because, I didn't realize the full extent of how much actual data and analysis went into it. My understanding of it, and the best way I can explain it, because it's how I got myself to understand it, is that if you draft a guy that is a good football player at 24 years old, as much as it feels like it's not as big of a deal in college, we all would understand it if we, instead of thinking about college, we thought about elementary school. First, second, third, fourth, and fifth graders. if you draft a guy that is a fourth or fifth grader that is dominating the general landscape of first, second, third, fourth, and fifth graders, it's not as impressive as a first or second grader that is as good as anybody else that's there. And it's probably not as pronounced, but I think that's still a thing in college. And so that's kind of what data has already found about these guys not necessarily panning out. Now, the reason breakout age matters is because breakout age kind of just hones in on that, because it's possible you draft a guy that's 24 years old that was really good at 21. It doesn't usually happen. I think with NIL, breakout age is going to be much more important, because generally, if you're a stud, the second you are eligible for the draft, you came out. There are going to be instances, and maybe this is why the Packers have gotten a couple older guys. I'll have to see if we can find. I know Player Profiler has breakout age as a metric, but they don't have anybody other than our first two picks, and our second round pick doesn't have a breakout age on it. So I will poke around and see if I can find breakout age as a metric that somebody else looks at. But that could honestly be part of it. You got guys that were good enough to come out earlier, but are like, nah, I'm staying here and making some money. So now you're kind of just looking at, obviously younger is better for a longevity standpoint, but good players are good players, and we're talking the difference of, 8 years instead of 10 years, like, okay. But yeah, data absolutely does back it up that, generally older players that are drafted are not quite as good. Usually, I think breakout age is a better way to judge that as opposed to just straight age. Again, especially now with NIL, because why else would, in the past, prior to NIL, anyone choose to stay if they could be a first or second round pick at 21 years old? All right, let's take our second break, and we'll see if we can finish these calls here. We got 5 more, starting with Garrett.
Hey, Ryan, it's Garrett from Southern Illinois.
What's up?
I just wanted to just give you just my opinion when it comes to the potential of what we're looking at for next season, because what had occurred to me was, in every draft, you always think, okay, this team got better. But if you look at the subtractions and then the additions, I feel like with everything that you addressed in just the last podcast, talking about, the guys that didn't even play last year, like Marshawn Lloyd, Musgrave, it's guys like that if they make any steps,
Morgan,
to
a smaller degree,
provide some production that we didn't have last year, and the other guys take a step to get better, I think just the potential there for the offense is tremendous. Love played through an injury-prone season. He was not himself. The receiver group in total just did not play well, and that's not characteristic of them at all, I think. So I think it's not platitudes or anything like that. I feel like it's a solid optimism for how this offense is going to be performing next year. I think there's a lot of potential with the rookies to contribute. I think with the new line and the signing of Banks, I think that offensive line is much improved compared to last year. Even though that they got through most of the season without any injuries, I think they had the most starts consistently with that team or with that offensive line. But I think now we're even looking at even a better lineup of guys to block for Jacobs. So I'm just hoping overall that LaFleur has reinvented himself a little bit, because I think at the end of the last season, I think defenses were trying to, work off of what he usually did, and he was starting to get predictable a little bit. So I'm hoping he reinvents himself a little bit and changes pace up a little bit. So here's hoping that they really utilize these new guys in ways that provides everything we need for the offense to be unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple issues. I mean, number one, Jordan really was struggling. I mean, when you don't have a quarterback that's playing well, like, at all, that's problematic. I think number two, as far as, predictability and whatnot, like I said before, I think part of the issue is going to be just the lack of, like, what can I even do? Jaden Reed is pretty talented, but, again, I think that defense has learned if you're going to put the game plan on him, we can take him away. We didn't have speed because we didn't have Watson, and we didn't have Musgrave. So we lost 2 speed guys. And then Dobbs and Wicks, like, okay. I mean, Dobbs at times was quite good, but at times not as much. And Wicks, for the most part, was really just not very good for the entire season. So, I mean, he probably wanted to some degree, build around Tucker Kraft, but that's a limiting thing. I mean, he's not. I like Tucker. I don't think he's as good as Matt LaFleur seems to want to believe he is. And I don't know that he's quite the guy that you can just build an entire offense around. I mean, I just think he tried. And I don't know that too many coaches could have taken that group and done a ton with it. So I think that's part of the idea behind what this draft is to, get him some guys that can actually do things, get him a field stretcher back because, Watson is not super reliable, and then find him like a gadget guy that can take some predictability, I guess you could say, away. The thing that he wanted to do with Reed, but couldn't necessarily do with Reed. Hopefully allowing him to be his creative self, because we've seen him in creative mode, and then when he doesn't, it's like what happened to creative LaFleur? Except sometimes he's creative and it doesn't work, and we yell at him for being creative, and then when he's not, he's not creative enough. But I think he is a creative coach, but he has to have players. So I'm hopeful that these 2 new guys can come in, that they can be healthy, and that they can contribute, and at least at a bare minimum in 2025, even if they don't massively develop beyond what they are, can at least provide the bare minimum of what Matt LaFleur needs. If I need a gadget guy or I need speed, I got that. You want them to develop beyond that, but at the very least, I can have them do that and then let the other guys do what I would. Let Romeo be Romeo, let Jaden be Jaden, let Tucker be Tucker. Let these guys be the receivers and let these other guys kind of just be what I need them to be in this moment.
Part 2, the defense. I kind of have to agree with Beer Cheese Spinny about. I'm kind of puzzled about the signing of Isaiah Simmons, because I'm going to be interested to see what that contract looks like, because
it's going to be a very small I think people are reading too much into this. I think, the idea that we went out and made some major signing that's going to transform the defense is not what just happened here. It's going to be a very small contract for a guy that is a very early pick because of elite traits. The Packers just want to get their hands on him and see what he can do. And like I said, he might not even make the 53. It's not that big of a deal.
Honestly, the trade-off between him and Eric Wilson, I'd rather have Eric Wilson. At least Eric Wilson had some really high grade.
He did, but he's also like in his 30s. So that was never going to be like a long-term thing.
And some of the starts that he had. And he was a proven special teams ace.
Yeah.
So why did we let him go for somebody that did maybe grade out well on the Giants special teams, but everything else not?
Beyond that, they were never. I mean, he was not a very good player unless he was in his Mike linebacker role, and I just don't think they were ever going to give him that job. I don't know. I always liked Eric Wilson more so than it seemed the team did, but I mean, if you look at the totality of how much time he was here and how much he actually contributed, it was like a 2 or 3 week stretch where he was very good in a role that they're never going to give back to him. And again, he's 30 some odd years old. That was never going to be a thing. And it's not like it was a 1-to-1 replacement. We didn't go get Eric Wilson or get whatever his name is to replace Eric Wilson. It's a very, very small thing. That's all I can say.
Great. I'm kind of scratching my head on that one because I would rather have Eric Wilson if I had to pick between the two. But I would love to be proven wrong. I would love to see him shine and break out, kind of like Razul and Devondre did with this team. I think there's a lot to be said about coming into a team that has a culture of winning that somehow flips the switch for some guys, and maybe it flips the switch for Isaiah. Everybody else, I think there's a lot of room for improvement in year two in Hafley's defense, and I think Hafley knows what he's working with now a little bit better, so I think there's a lot of room for improvement for the defense. There's a lot of guys that just did not show out at the beginning of the season, but did show improvement at the end. And with the new additions, I think there's competition there and a bump in talent. So let's hope on both sides of the ball that we have gotten better. I'm out.
Yeah, and that would just be my only message on the Simmons thing, is don't read too much into it. It's not a big deal. It's not meant to be a big signing. It's meant to be a small signing. He's a uber gifted guy that the Packers are like, how has this not worked? He's way too talented. They're going to let he's going to come into camp. He's going to see what Hafley can do with him, and either it works or it doesn't. But I don't know. I don't see it as like a major. This wasn't like a $15-20 million signing. Looks like we still don't have details on his contract yet. I know it's a 1-year deal, so again, it's a very small thing, and the total guarantees are going to be the most important because again, I think the Packers recognize that he may not make it into camp, so you don't want it to be too big of a guaranteed deal.
Hey Ryan, it's Nate. It's been quite a while since I called in, but I had to call in because I am so sick of it already. The cycle has continued exactly the same way that it always does, and yet every year I hate it more. And that's the cycle where the Bears, they get all this hype right after the draft. It's already happening. I'm watching Ryan Clark right now just deep throat the Bears about, oh my God, Luther Burden. They got Luther Burden. They already had elite wide receivers.
Which just shows how shallow and incompetent these people are. What they did last year, getting one of the most generational quarterbacks that has ever come out of college, like the way that this guy was talked up. On top of that, they add a freaking borderline Hall of Fame wide receiver to their roster. They already had a guy last year that was a top 10 receiver, and they drafted a one of the top receivers in a very deep receiver class, probably better than everybody that was in this year's class. They did all of that last year, and then this year they add a receiver in the second round, and it's like, this is what's going to fix it all. This is the thing that was always needed. He just needed a receiver. Are you out of your freaking minds? What are you talking about? He's already got 2 that should be better than Luther Burden, and he's just replacing a guy that left last year who had his first bad year ever in his entire career. Not to mention how silly it is that everybody said coming into this they need to get a running back, and they got nothing. They didn't get the top guy. They decided not to go after the second guy too early. In the second round, there was a run on running backs right before they picked. They just refused to reach, which is a credit to them. But the fact that we're going to go back and do all this revisionist history nonsense, as the Bears have compared to what's already on the roster and what's expected of the guys that are already there, which they couldn't do jack squat with, the additions are minor. The only addition that matters is the new head coach. That's the only addition that matters, because either he can make this crap sandwich actually start to taste good, he can actually make this thing work, or he can't. I don't give a crap about Luther Burden. In the grand scheme of Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Ben Johnson, how much you're telling me that Luther Burden is what's going to tip this thing over? And Colston Loveland, like that's going to make all the difference, right? Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, they can't get it done on their own, and I'm supposed to believe a tight end is going to come in and fix stuff? Dog, this thing either thrives on the back of, listen, if Caleb Williams is able to be the guy that everybody thought he could be because Ben Johnson gets it out of him, you should be able to lose Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, and Colston Loveland and still dominate the way Pat Mahomes does with like a single guy sometimes. He had Tyreek Hill, lost him. Everybody, I thought that they were going to start failing, and they didn't. They didn't lose a beat. They kept being the exact same team. He has one guy to throw to and a garbage group of receivers around him. And this whole team is deteriorating around him. And guess what? Because they have a really good coach and a good quarterback, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So either Ben Johnson can turn Caleb Williams into that, or you can stack as many people in here as you want. It's not going to matter.
Receivers, and it did nothing for them.
Right.
But they're already they're already crowning them kings of the draft.
Sure.
Anyway, go Paco.
Well, it's funny too because you have to know how stupid you sound. Because if you jump on that bandwagon, I mean, the fact that they are the 5-time reigning offseason champs and then go on to be one of the worst teams in football over that exact same span really goes to show you how stupid these people are. And then the fact that they've double, triple, quadrupled down on the same failed premise, the same failed belief, going back to year one of Justin Fields. That's when this started. They didn't really do it for Trubisky as much. As soon as Justin Fields was drafted, it was just a media obsession with the Chicago Bears. The fans lost their minds. Everything is going to be great. The media, every second of every day, even during the season, watching Justin Fields be a terrible quarterback, refused to believe it. No, it's not his fault. They just need receivers and they need offensive. They're playing the same game. They just need a new coach. They need a new offensive coordinator. They need a better offensive line. Guess what? They got new offensive coordinators. They got new coaches. They got new receivers. They got new offensive line. It never fixed it. And now they're playing the same game. They watched a quarterback be absolute dog crap garbage that with a loaded roster, and then they just go, "Oh, the offensive line's no good, and the offensive coordinator was no good." And then they fired the offensive coordinator, and that didn't fix it. And they're like, "Well, it's the head coach. The head coach didn't do it." And they fired the head coach, and guess what? The team got worse. And they're like, "Oh yeah, I forgot he was actually a good defensive coordinator, and that didn't fix our offense." They're just wrong over and over and over and over again, and they don't learn anything. How could you hitch your wagon to the Chicago, of all teams, the Chicago Bears? It's like hitching your wagon to the Jets. And I understand falling for it when Rodgers was there. Maybe. But once they failed with Rodgers, you got to be like, this is never going to work, and I will never believe in you ever. Why would you believe in the Jets? Why would you believe in the Browns? Why would you ever believe in these teams that have proven to never, ever be able to do anything right? The Bears are up there with the worst of the worst of the worst. And they get treated like they're the most brilliant team with the most brilliant GM. Oh, Poles is brilliant. And the Bears are brilliant. And their president is brilliant. And their new coach is brilliant, like all the other coaches, until they're not brilliant. And then we fire them and bring in a new guy that's brilliant. And then they go to get a new quarterback that's generational. Until he's a pile of crap and we finally give up on him, but then we just draft a new one who's generational. And then we identify a problem, and then we fix the problem, and then we identify a problem, and then we fix the problem. And it's like zero humility with this fan base. Zero. To this many times be wrong about literally everything, and then to stand there confidently and say, we've identified the problem and we've fixed it. After having said that 700 times over the last 4 to 5 years and been wrong every single time, it's never been fixed, you've been wrong every time, and to just say it again with your chest out and believe it, how absolutely delusional and stupid do you have to be to do that? How psychotic are you to have no skepticism of this team? To at no point just go, you know what? I understand what you're saying, but I don't believe. And this year of all years, you're going to put all your faith in Your third frickin' receiver, Luther Burden, that's going to... What are you even talking? Like, you're not even trying to be a serious human being at this point. It's almost like Bears fans actually did give up a long time ago and have just perfected the art of trolling. They know it's not going to work. It honestly makes a lot more sense than they actually believe what they're saying. The fact that they have just embraced the trollery. If that was... Oh, man, kudos. You guys got me. For years, I thought you guys were being serious. My hat's off to you, man. You got me. You got me good, you jerks. Oh, boy. I don't know. I don't understand. I don't get it. And, again, yeah, okay, year 2 of your quarterback, and Ben Johnson's a genius. Okay, maybe. And I've given you a maybe pretty much every year because it could be. I gave you maybes with Trubisky. Oh, shoot, they got that quarterback real early. And actually, he's bad. But you know what? Year 2, he might be better. Oh, you know what? You got a new coach. This might actually fix him. Year 4, you never know, or 3, you never know. Well, you got a new quarter. Oh, man, this guy, he's good. This guy, I tell you what, he's really good. Oh, actually, he was bad, though. That's weird. But year 2, he might be pretty good. No, he wasn't good. Oh, new coach. He might be. Oh, no. So I'll give it to you again, but to pretend that I'm a delusional person. And Packer fans will do this, too. They'll be like, oh, you're just being biased. No, I'm just not being an idiot. You're telling me I have to believe that they're going to do something? I'm sorry. I'm going to have a heavy dose of skepticism. Oh, but you don't understand Ben Johnson. I do understand Ben Johnson. Just like I understood Justin Fields, just like I understood Matt Nagy, just like I understood Caleb Williams and how generational all these people were and brilliant these people were. Just like their last head coach. Oh, this guy's a great culture guy. He's going to bring in a culture. That guy, day 1, everybody was like, this guy's an idiot. His freaking hits principle and saying awkward stuff up in front of the team. Okay. By the way, how's your defense going to look this year? Because it ended terribly after you got rid of your defensive coordinator, and then you got an offensive guy. How's your defense going to look? Just asking. Whatever. Have we considered that maybe this guy can't fix your offense and your defense just is going to be bad now? Because for the little success you had, it was largely credited to your defense. But I guess we don't need to worry about that because you got Luther Burden. Well done. Fixed it. Nailed it. Good job. I mean, you already had Roma Dunze and DJ Moore, but no, this fixed it. And you got Drew Dahlman at center, just knocking it out of the park. Well done. And freaking washed up Jonah Jackson. Cool, dude. Anyways, we'll have to get into that whole thing. Once we get through all our picks, we might go back and do an NFC North thing. And I'm not saying they had a bad draft. I haven't really looked at it yet. Just the hype all over. It's so silly. It really is silly. Anyways, I'm gonna get out of here. I got to start digging into our 4th round pick. I'm really excited about that. Starting to really get into the deeper, lesser known players, and a fan favorite for sure. So you guys have a good rest of your day, night, whatever. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.